So there's something very interesting about the truth, right? Which is that every time when we hear the truth, we recognize it as being the truth. Even if it might feel a bit uncomfortable and we try to rationalize it away, we know it's the truth. So what about this one? You only get in life answers to the questions you are willing to ask of yourself. It's a simple truth. You will only get in life answers to the questions you are looking forward to have answers to. And I would even dare to say that more important than the answers themselves are the actual questions. So I would even dare to say that you will only get in life, you will only really get in life answers to the questions you are really, really, really looking forward to get an answer to, that you're really interested in get an answer to. Like you are very into them, right? Very devoted to finding an answer to. And this is a very important distinction because whatever runs in our minds typically runs on a pattern of automaticity, right? There are a few thinking patterns that we are always repetitively engaged in, right? We don't have so many new thoughts every single day. Most of the time, we run in loop for hours at a time, more or less the same question, and a refinement of an answer which gives us some relief, some comfort, typically. Most of the questions that we ask of ourselves are nothing but the result of seeking immediate comfort. Whenever we have a challenging situation to deal with, we try to find an immediate way out of it. That's just the human nature. It's just the human drive. The problem with that strategy is, of course, that all good things in life, in this human existence, all worthwhile endeavors and projects, all outcomes that are worthy of your own future self-appreciation, right, are not coming whenever you ask yourself a certain question for the first time, right? Positive, good outcomes, long-lasting, useful outcomes in your life and in the life of people around you come after months or years of consistent effort, after years of applying yourself systematically on things where you find that there is something there for you in the end, right? You cannot force yourself into great outcomes and a life you are proud of, like for the longest time. It just doesn't work. So what's the strategy here? How can we ask ourselves better questions? Or more empowering questions, right? If all the answers that we get are answers to unconscious questions, likely, that are meant to give us immediate relief from some sort of uncomfortable situation, what's a better strategy to asking again better questions? So, of course, every single time, no matter what you're trying to change, you have to start with awareness. You have to recognize the current pattern. You have to realize what's your tendency. What are the typical questions that you ask of yourself? And this is the kind of diagnostic we can already make together. Even if I don't know you personally, I can already tell you with a certain degree of confidence that if you have repeated questions that you like repetitive questions that you ask of yourself all the time and make you feel bad about yourself, those are, let's call them, disempowering questions. A disempowering question is typically a question whose answer puts you in a bad position with yourself in terms of your own self-perception. Meaning that, an example of a disempowering question: why am I always failing at this? Why is this always happening to me? Why is this never working? You see, there are a few elements here that are worth considering that are damaging you ultimately, with enough time horizon, a long enough time horizon. They come in absolute, like, why is this always like this? Why am I always failing? Why is this never working? So they come in absolute, they are on a negative spectrum, and they typically are linked to your own ability, to your own capability, and pointing at you, right? Why am I never good at doing this? Why is this never working for me? With enough repetition like that, you will inevitably attach yourself with this negativity, in the sense that you will start to build these absolute negative statements that with time you will link them to your own identity. If you say for enough times, why am I always failing at this? It's just a short step until the inevitable conclusion that you are a failure. Why am I such a failure is not an outrageous conclusion that your mind will arrive at if you ask of yourself enough times, why am I always failing at this? The mind is just a tool, right? It's an answer-seeking machine. It's doing an amazing job at finding answers that give you resolution and comfort. Even if that comfort looks outrageous on the outside, right? You would ask, why thinking of myself that I'm a failure would give me comfort? Well, because you have an answer now. If you know that you are a failure, why struggle anymore with trying to achieve something? You already have an answer. So there you go. You found your peace. It might sound outrageous that this resolution and the peace come from knowing, right? Knowing that you are a failure based on these repetitive answers that just start to pop up at some point. If you ask again of yourself, why am I always failing at this? Why is this never working for me? Why can't I do better? Your mind will not come up with creative, future-looking answers to those limiting, narrow, close-ended questions. Right? So, your mind is not a problem here. The unconscious loop that you run in your mind, programmed maybe by lots of things, right, throughout your upbringing and your own development, that prime you to ask unconsciously this question of yourself. That's the problem. And if you identify the pattern, then you can interrupt the pattern. And if you stop asking the same disempowering question of yourself all the time, you might have a different answer at some point. Or you might expect to get answers that enlarge and open up your point of view and perspective and understanding of the world. When you ask of yourself, how can this situation help me learn something new? What can I understand from what's happening now? Uniquely, what I can uniquely understand from what's happening in this situation today that I could have not understood if I were not to go through this? What's a unique learning opportunity for me here? Why do I need this exact situation to go through it at this moment in time? And how can I make the best of it? How can I see this obstacle as the very milestone that I need in my life today to get to my goal? How can I see this as a gift? How is this beneficial to me? If you start asking these questions, can you look and can you see already the different quality in the answers that you might get? It's not rocket science. That's why the truth is simple when you hear it. And the truth is this: if you ask yourself empowering questions, you get empowering results, you get empowering answers. If you ask yourself disempowering questions, you get disempowering answers. Disempowering questions are typically in the absolute, are on the negative spectrum, and are not meant to give you perspective, are not meant to give you some sort of pathway to explore further. These empowering questions are meant to give you immediate relief from a consistent pain that you are putting yourself through. And that pain could even be caused by the fact that you are asking yourself in the first place these questions. I know. I'm always amazed at the tragic comedy nature of the human existence. Because things in their essence are so damn simple. Life is so simple, and yet we make it this impossibly complicated project with lots of problems all the time, every time, with an infinite amount of issues that we have to resolve, and once we resolve those, we just create an infinite more, right, amount of questions. But everything is simple in its nature, and it's not meant to lock us down and imprison us in our own minds. The mind is not meant to trap us inside this small prison of, understanding and context of the world. The mind is meant to help us explore the world, right? So when you ask yourself empowering questions, you open up to the world. What can I learn from this? Now you might say, okay, but how can I change this, right? It's easy. I recognize the truth. I understand it's simple, but it's not easy, right? It's simple, it's not easy. So I understand. Clearly, it makes sense. I ask myself disempowering questions. I get disempowering answers. These disempowering answers keep me stuck. They give me some sort of momentary relief that I'm not good enough, that I'm a failure, that I'm a problem, that there is something wrong with me, that it's not even, doesn't even make sense to still pursue it. That doesn't make sense to even expend energy. So whenever I fail at something, it's my problem, right? It's me. I'm a failure, so of course I'm failing, right? And now, even if I'm failing consistently, it's part of my strategy. I have an answer. I'm a failure, so of course I'm failing. No surprise there, right? So how can you get from there, which is such a comfortable place to be in because now you have an answer, like such a fast answer to all complication in your life, right? All the problems, all the issues, everything that now you have as a problem, you have an answer to it, right? You have a resolution, you have a solution. You are a failure. So no wonder we adopt that, right? We adopt that because it's a very alluring escape from the struggle, from the perceived struggle, right? Because the struggle doesn't have to be a struggle unless you label it as a struggle. A problem is not a problem unless you label it as a problem. Once you label it as a problem, once you label it as a struggle, once you attach this negative emotional footprint to it, then you want to run away from it. You want to resolve it. You want to solve it. You want to fix it fast. And how you do it? Well, you have the answer. You're a failure, so don't even bother, right? So how you get from there to actually looking forward to a solution. Not only to being okay with that thing happening to you, but seeking situations that allow you to prove yourself to yourself, your future self. And this is the hint that you are worthy of the challenge, ultimately. You see, I see struggle as an opportunity to prove yourself to yourself. I don't see struggle as forcing you into a limitation that you have now to be aware of and accept. Like, I'm a failure, woe is me. I think struggle is a gift. I think obstacles are a gift. I think pain is the ultimate fuel. I think suffering is optional. Once you have pain, you're good. So in this new mixture of my new empowering questions recipe, right? I have the recipe for empowering questions. What is still missing? How can I sustain this recipe? How can I continue, or how can I even disrupt the old recipe of these empowering questions and adopt the new recipe of empowering questions? We need to be pulled, right, by something in the future, by something in our imagination. The future is not there, doesn't exist, but we can imagine it. We can imagine it the same way we imagine our past. Our past only lives in our imagination. It might feel more real and more palpable, but it's still an imagination today. In this moment, as we speak, in this very moment, in the only moment there is, right? When we live this moment, whenever we think about our past, we create it out of our imagination with the texture and the colors that made sense for us, in a certain pattern that is familiar with us. So that's why it's so natural that when you have a bad experience, when you had a bad experience in the past, you retrieve it in that bad context. Whenever you think about it, you relive the bad context that you lived at the time, right? When it happened in the present moment. But now when you are creating it in the present moment, you are recreating, you are rebringing it to life with this negative stance, because this is how you integrated it at the time. And this is how you kept integrating it repetitively. Whenever you thought about it, that package of negative emotions and negative attachment and interpretation and pattern of thinking and asking the same questions and finding the same answers and everything, like this bundle of positioning about what happened, right, in the past, it just comes along like that, right? Bam. You don't have to think a lot, right? It just comes. So this is what happened to me, like a fact. Overlooking the simple fact that the past is always recreated in our mind like the future is. We can create an optimistic future like we can create now an optimistic past. We can look at something great potentially happening to us in the future, and at the same time, we can look at something great that happened to us in the past without being forced to label the past as being bad, without being forced to, anticipate anxiously the future. We can choose our future. We can choose our past. Why? Because the future and the past are nothing but constructs in the mind. They are imaginations. They don't exist. The only thing that exists is this moment now, which doesn't need mind engagement. I know, crazy fact. You don't need to think to exist. You don't need to run a narrative in your mind to be alive in this moment. This is just not required. We do it so naturally that we live in this mind-made reality, and we force ourselves to be trapped in this overlay of thinking all the time about everything that we just don't see anymore. That reality doesn't require us to think about it to exist. So when you claim back this power of changing the overlay, changing the very nature of your subjective experience of life, changing the very way in which you interpret what you experience and the color attached to the experience, then you get the ultimate superpower. Think of it. If you can think of the future and of the past in the most empowering way possible, if you could ask only empowering questions pertaining to how you experience in the present the past, or how you want to experience the future in the present when you think about it, when you anticipate the future, when you think about the past and things that happened in your past, instead of labeling them as bad, you start to inquire how they can be good to you. Instead of thinking, this happened to me in the past, therefore I am like this in the present, therefore I must do it like this, so then it must happen like this in the future, right? So you always expect the worst based on the worst that you already experienced. How would your life change if you would start asking of yourself questions like this? How was this thing that happened to me 3 years ago the most precious gift that I ever received from life? What is the lesson that I didn't have the courage to learn from this thing in the past that I avoided, that I'm now avoiding so much? What is it that I'm really avoiding? Because there is nothing real anymore, right? I'm good, I'm alive. Me thinking about that thing won't hurt me. So why don't have the courage to look at that in a way that gives me answers, that help me build the kind of future that I will grow into, that I will grow to be proud of, that I will make my future self proud of? How would your life change if you would start asking these kind of questions? How would your life change if you would use this purposeful future, this amazing future that you give yourself the chance ultimately to imagine for yourself? And how would that change? How would that future be able to inform the present, what you are currently experiencing? How would this excitement in the present, when you think and imagine the future, allow you to frame in a positive way things from the past? We have this natural tendency to just relive the past on repeat just because, we did it up to today. And it's the simplest thing to do. Just repeat what you did yesterday because that thing clearly took you to today. So clearly you are alive. But when you want to build a future that excites the heck out of you, and yet you were not able to create it up to today, your mind will default to be scared of it, because there are no answers. There are no easy answers that you can respond to immediately like that, right? And if your tendency is to ask of yourself these empowering questions, like the tendency of all human beings is, then you will be afraid of the future. Then you will, miss the opportunity to embrace the gift of God, right, in the present moment, and see the situation you are in not as a struggle, not as an obstacle, not as a problem or like a thing to escape from, but as a gift. If you would ask, how can I make use of this gift and be grateful for it, knowing that it helps me grow, knowing that it helps me become this better version of myself that is meant to be in service of others, to do better in the world, to inspire you, right? What is better than that? What is better than giving yourself the chance to become inspired by the day, by the version of yourself that you will meet in the future? Getting more and more inspired by yourself with every passing day. What's a better project than that? And think of it, how inspired your future self will be when you will meet him in the mirror 5 years from now, knowing that every single day up to that point, whenever you face the challenge, you asked of yourself, first of all, you were receiving the challenge, right? You were appreciating the opportunity to be confronted with it, because it gives you the means to overcome it and prove to yourself that you are ultimately worthy of whatever you will build up to that point. We have this false belief that we need to have everything today, that things outside of us will make us whole, that if I would only have this amount of money, if I would only have this house, if I would only have this car, if I would only have this career, if I would only have this position, then I would feel complete, then I will feel successful. But if you would get that today without proving yourself, without proving it to yourself first, that you are capable to do the things that give you that outcome, if you would actually get that today in an artificial way, would you be able to keep it? Or would you unconsciously and slowly but surely reject ultimately that outcome, knowing that you didn't work for it? Something to contemplate on. So those outcomes are only artifacts of the kind of person who is able to do naturally things that generate those outcomes. And becoming that person is the whole project. And you become that person only if you go through things, right? If it would be easy, then you will already get there. You will already be there. And imagine how natural and simple this truth always is and also is, right? Like, you becoming that person is the project, because once you're there, you can generate those outcomes as a byproduct of who you've become. And you own the outcomes, right? It's like the natural things that you can generate, whatever that is. You know, you hear people that, I would love to have, I don't know, a six-pack, right? Like in terms of, you know, like fitness and body composition and so on. Like, if I would only be like fit, like I would take that pill, right? You would take a pill. I would take a pill to have a six-pack. But would you be able to maintain that six-pack? No, of course not. So what's the point in having a six-pack if it's not yours? I mean, when you can build it for yourself, then it's yours. And the process of getting to it through your own means, through your own lessons, through your own experimentation, through your own failures, or if you want, or failed attempts at getting there, through your own struggles. They give you all the necessary information and the build-up that you need, so that when you get there, you know exactly how you got there. And even if you don't maintain the six-pack, let's say, you will get it again if you want it, but you know how to get it. And that translates to everything else. The process of getting to get something is the most important thing, because this is how you naturally build up the experimentation and the knowingness of getting something. And the whole project is allowing discomfort to be there, because during this process, you will always learn something new that you didn't know before. And whenever you learn something new, you have to integrate that lesson. You have to be willing to change your own understanding of that thing, which up to that point was a bit more limited. Now you know more. And now based on this new thing, you can do different, you can do better, right? In the direction of your goal. And your mind will help you along the way to navigate, right? You will ask better questions of yourself. You will get better answers. Now with these new answers, you can make better decisions. You close always the feedback in a way that is consciously designed by you, so it helps you reach that destination. It's not haphazardous anymore. It's not chaotic anymore. It's not random anymore. It's not disempowering you anymore. The questions that you will start to ask of yourself in this process that you assume is long, that you assume is hard, that you own, that you are grateful for, because the process is what makes you worthy of whatever destination you think you really want in your life. The process, the journey. The destination is nothing without the process. If that goal is really, 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 really important to you, having it sooner than you deep down know that you deserve to have it, you will start to reject it, you will start to deny it, you will recognize as not being yours, because you know that you took some shortcuts along the way. There are no shortcuts. The best shortcut in life for getting things that you really care about and make you happy, the only shortcut for getting there is that there is no shortcut. And the moment you accept there is no shortcut to things, to getting to things, to have things that you really care about in life, the moment you realize that there is no shortcut for getting there, you give in to the process. You realize that the process is what matters the most. That by the time you get there and get whatever outcome you desire to have, you have become the kind of person that is worthy of it, that is proud of the realization, and that can actually maintain that outcome. And it all starts with asking yourself better questions, asking yourself empowering questions, giving yourself the chance to learn instead of condemn yourself, giving yourself the chance to grow into the person who gets those outcomes and that life that you desire as a natural byproduct of the person, of who you become along the way. And that's the whole thing. Openness to the world. Learning new things every single day. Learning about yourself new things every single day by asking yourself good questions. It all starts with having the courage to ask yourself questions and don't worry about the answers. Focus on the questions. Happy exploration.